are we doing chapter?
Yeah, you were.
Are we on chapter 5?
You were starting a new chapter, right?
Yeah.
5.
Chapter
Okay.
5. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I remember doing the stuff from before, but I didn't know if that was the last one we did or not.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, we have
What page, ladies?
page
37.
Okay.
Okay, Sandy, would you like to start us off on chapter 5, being the absolute?
Okay.
I have something to share. If
Oh, yes, please.
Oh, yeah.
so, me and Jim were reading the Lost Works,
Mm-hmm.
and what is called. So on page 111, you want me to share?
Sure.
So I'll share this. See if I share this page 116 PDF of Lost Works. It's this chapter 10. You look somehow familiar forever.
Yes.
And here it says, this book is not for real human beings. It was not written for easy reading or for literary style. It was written for those who have run away and who know what they have done and where they belong. It was written for those who are in hiding among the small number of real humanity. It was written for over 9 billion beings of the inner spheres. Particularly, it was written for those beings from sphere 24 and sphere number 12. So we just got thinking, what is this sphere? And, we came back to this page 33 that, remember this
Yeah, the chart,
table?
right?
Yes.
Yeah, so we came back to this and we could correlate to that sphere number 24 and 12.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an interesting correlation we found.
I bet.
And
yeah.
and this is in the Lost Works.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I wonder if some of this is Ouspensky goes into quite a bit of the octaves and all that, but I don't have a background in that. Bernie, is that something you have a background in?
Neither me, and I am curious about that. Yes, also.
Mm-hmm.
The octaves and the musical delay and all that stuff. I've read a lot, but I am not acquainted with it. I would like to know more. The law of 7, the law of 3. Yes, I read a lot about it, but I don't recall my knowledge about it.
Right. And it's different at different times in your life too. Reading the same book at, every other year or every 5 years it makes a difference to me how I understand things.
I have a question.
I want to finish this chart thing. I think if you look at that page 33 chart, it names a couple of individuals, and also it names a category, Kabbalistic hierarchy of beings. I think if you Google some of those things, you'll get some references that might be useful in your research about this. I just wanted to, that's the first thing I always do. If there's something I don't understand or I don't get, I always Google it first, and then I look for references that have something to do with what I'm interested in. And yeah, that's a way to go. Thank you. Sorry, Wilson.
Well, that was kind of my question. In the angel's healing journey, isn't, that there's, a circle of 7, and isn't like hall 1 like maybe archangels or principalities, and isn't there a descending order um in that a book?
That's what I understand. But I don't have comprehension.
Yeah, it has 7 halls and every hall has 7 chambers.
Yes, and it seems like, say, the first are the um archon, Archon, and then it ends up with the last 7. They're all female um guides, which seems to suggest that it has gone into matter.
Mm.
Well, there's another
So
aspect. If
yeah,
you
go
look
ahead.
at
I'm sorry.
page 149 in the hidden work, it has the list of initiating angelic beings, and it's another set of celestial choirs, but it's different than the other ones that we've looked at. So it's just, to me, one of the things about this is the references of name and position and responsibility is an indication of a certain, I'm going to use a stupid word here, but vibe. What is it good for? Where do you find it? That's kind of how I simplify it for myself. And when I see on page 149 that the 7th choir or hall has got 3, and they call them the ruler, and in the other categories they call them something else, I go, oh, that depends on what pair of lenses you're looking at this through at the moment. So I think our referencing, if we could do it with maybe send each other examples of the places we find this information and the charts that we can share with each other, I think that would be very interesting to actually develop this out even a little bit more, because I know, Wilson, you've got some data, and we certainly have a lot of references we could be leaping over, so to speak. Floating, angelic, wings, done.
Well, this is sort of a slightly different take on research, but the 2 films about angels by the German filmmaker, I think it was Wimmers, but Far Away, like there's the angel Cassiel in it, but it's a very interesting. I'll try to send the link to you, Patricia, and then it could be shared. The other set of movies were suggested as work films to me by Drew Crystal, and it's called The Prophecy, and it's starring Christopher Walken as the Archangel Gabriel. And what's interesting is you see, either the evolution or the devolution, but there's a lot of data that is in those 3 movies. You have to kind of get through some of the, filler of that they put in, but there, like it talks about the Nephilim and the, angels and the, Messiah, and it's so those 5 films are an interesting research if people wanted to do additional work in a more artistic way.
If you want to send me an email with those with those lists on it. That would be great. I'll share with everybody.
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
Guys, the only thing I can share about this thing of angels is that I once asked a mentor of my life, as I think it's a Sufi guy, and he only said that those were formulas of powers to be activated. They were not, in a way, what I inferred, information, no? That he didn't give much place for discussion, and he meant that there were names for talents or whatever tapped in the human consciousness. That's all I can share with you.
That
Okay.
they were like primal components, Bernie, of human consciousness.
Yes, they were like hidden talents to be opened, but they were
Oh.
not factual existence. You know, that is what I got from him. No, this guy Idrisha, I had the privilege of talking many times with him, but he disguised, not disguised. He didn't give. He told me not to give too much attention to those hierarchies or whatever. Anyway, that was very long ago. I was young.
Well, I've also understood them in some ways as archetypal patterns or templates. But I do know that EJ has communicated a relationship with Gabriel, and Drew a relationship with Michael, that there were particular talents, or like you said, gifts that had different vibratory frequencies. And so Gabriel is different than Michael, which is different than Raphael. And Patricia, you might know more about UJ and Gabriel, right? We've got the Gabriel papers.
No. I don't have that particular formulation immediately available in my memory at the moment. No, sorry. I recognize the words that you're saying, but the images and the experiences, nope, not there. Except that he named his first son Gabriel. So the sharing that we'll do with the data that we each have will include references to or copies of charts with the various linkages of entities in whatever formulation they come. Data about those references, and the other thing I said to Wilson a few minutes ago, you're going to write down something, I forget what that was.
Oh, about the films?
Yes, other references that we have on this topic to share. That would be great. We'll build ourselves a little reference library here. Anything else before we start reading?
That's it. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Sandy, you want to launch into chapter 5?
Being the being the absolute. Although the absolute cannot directly alter the creation, it can, over a very long period of objective time, using repeated passages through the creation, produce change by the radiating power of influence. Being the Absolute is like never-ending baptism, total immersion in a saltwater flotation tank without external sensations or vision. Eventually, the weight of timelessness gives way to full-blown tactile hallucinations.
Let's just,
When we,
let's
yeah,
just
okay,
pause for a moment. Does anybody not know what the traditional baptism experience is? Everybody knows what a baptism is?
I mean, you have idea. I don't know exactly, but
The traditional Christian baptism has to do with being placed in water, your body placed in water. If you're an infant, usually they just put a little water on the head. But if you're a human, full adult, they have pools, baptismal pools, depending on which form of the Christian religions you're looking at. The formulation that is being given here, total immersion in a saltwater flotation tank, references exactly and specifically the samadhi flotation tank, which was built originally by John Lilly, who was a friend of EJ's. The company, Samadhi Tank Company, with Glenn and Lee Perry as the owners, were the people who were given the copyright idea by Lilly to produce publicly. This is about 40 years ago. The reference in here about the absolute is like never-ending baptism is a reference that is visually extremely pertinent because it says that you never get out, you're always immersed, and you don't have weight. It is sensation, external sensations, you don't have any, and you don't have vision either. So if you just imagine, floating in your bathtub, you put enough salt water in it, you can rise to the surface and not sink. And you're in that sensation, you're in that environment eternally. That's where and who you are. This sentence has always amazed me because it's not a description I've ever heard of before. The absolute is like never-ending baptism. Yikes. Okay. I don't need to go further. If you want to go more into it, just look up online flotation tank, and you can get the image and the picture and look at them and stuff. Or come out here and have a visit with us, and we'll let you float in one of the tanks here on the property. Okay. I'm sorry I had to interrupt because it always strikes me.
thanks. Yeah.
Astonished.
Thank you.
Sandy, go for it again. Let's hear some more.
when we invoke the presence of the Absolute, in much the same way we invoke our own presences into the biological machine, the Absolute is able to subjectively experience the phenomenal visions, the hallucinations of a lower order of life, which is us and our world. And although to us the experience may seem to continue for years, to the Absolute, the whole passage from beginning to end seems like only one moment, one single out-breath. At the end of the out-breath, life comes to an end, and the being is recalled into the absolute by the in-breath. Oh, that's lovely. I'll pass.
I'd like to add something if that's okay.
Yeah.
So that idea of the, the single breath of God, Rabbi Zalman talked about that if you go to the Bible, in the original Aramaic, it's, we have in the beginning, but it translates more accurately as, once upon a beginning, the idea that there are, multiple creations.
Well, that was very considerate of Zalman to share that with you. Thank you.
Yes.
He is a considerate being, after all, of the highest order. This involuntary process of being drawn back by the in-breath of the absolute is called the Great Return. And each passage of the absolute through the creation is subject to this inevitable return. It is the inexorable inevitability of this return which causes the higher emotion of regret within the absolute, which corresponds more or less to that deep, abiding feeling of disappointment and unfulfillment felt by women when their men turn their backs on them after ejaculation or jump out of bed and go running just as they were beginning to feel secure enough to risk opening themselves up to the warmth of intimacy. Now, I'd like to pose for the group. How can you imagine going in 4 paragraphs from being the absolute is like never-ending baptism to the more or less deep abiding feeling of disappointment and unfulfillment? And it's all on the same topic as, this is the absolute. This is the experience of the absolute. This is the criteria of the absolute. This is the situation. Just, I can hardly believe that it's actually written down, because I would never think something like this would be allowed,
It's wonderful. It's the roughness of life in a way. It's 2 words. Yes. I like it very much. Yes.
I was teasing about the allowed.
Well, men like the absolute come and go and always too soon.
Thank you, Wilson.
Oh, Wilson. So funny.
So if you were to write, like we could have this little assignment, write one phrase from this chapter, if you can, write one phrase chapter that you are pondering for more than the time that we're here together. And I've just picked mine. It is the inexorable inevitability of this return, which causes the higher emotion of regret within the absolute. That's the one I'm gonna try and carry around with me. Jash, would you like to read?
Sure, thank you. If you like let me give this again to you. If you would like a demonstration of the subjective feeling that this produces in the absolute, you can begin by breathing out slowly, extending the breath as far as is safely possible. At the same time, imagining that an entire lifetime has expanded outward like a bubble of air into a vacuum. In a sense, we are breathing life into existence. Then, as the breath comes to its fullest extension and finally comes to a stop, imagine that the lifetime has come to its conclusion, that the breath is no longer able to sustain it, to give it energy. Now allow the breath of life, which we have pushed out of ourselves, to return into ourselves, bringing the life force back to its source, at the same time annihilating all trace of the lifetime, even its memory, because we have nothing in which to store memories, and all traces of the life are now extinguished. This more or less describes the subjective experience of the Absolute in its passages through the creation, although it is more dreamlike in quality. And I pass.
Are we gonna let this one just hang there, or do we wanna poke at it a little bit?
It comes to my mind something that I read in some Hindi books, like The Breath of Brahma. I know probably Yayesh and Nishant know more, no? That the world is inspired and expired each time. Um, when I read that once, I I must say it. I was I was very high on some not very powerful drug, but a little drug, and I was very surprised that in that moment I felt that very powerful, that I realized that I had that what I took for granted, that the inspiration expression that we take for granted because it is in a way automatic, it could not be automatic. I don't know exactly what I mean with this, but I somehow panicked because I realized that I could not breathe again if I wanted. I could choose to die if I didn't breathe again. Anyway, I was in a high state, but this thing about inspiration and breathing is very connected with this teaching. No, I think. Thank you. That's
Thank
it.
you.
There's also the idea for me that in the scriptures, similar when we were talking about the breath of Brahman, that how, God breathed into Adam and gave him life, and the word for breath is ruah, which is also spirit. So there is a way that, we, share that essence of life with, our breath. That in a way it kind of shows me, we tend to think of, oh, it's my breath going in and out. And this sort of opens me up to the idea of that we are being breathed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wilson. That was
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you, Bernie, also. That's, yeah. Wilson, will you carry on?
As the absolute, your attention on the creation is very high. What else is there to occupy it? You can dimly perceive the interior groanings of life. Imagine lying in a pool of warm water as in a womb, except that you are completely exposed to the world. Oh, I'm sorry, completely exposed to the void, naked in the most raw sense of the word. You are completely, totally awake. The whole of your attention concentrated on yourself. There is nothing outside yourself which could distract your attention. Slowly, you become aware of something or other proceeding within yourself, but you have no idea what it might be. It is vaguely uncomfortable. You have never experienced this before as far as you can remember, and there is no one else to ask about it. You cannot go for help, nor will outside help ever arrive.
Just a passing thought. Has anyone ever had that experience?
Well, it's definitely the flotation tank experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's a terror movie.
Nishant, let's hear from you for a while.
You try to rearrange yourself in some way to be more comfortable, but nothing seems to have any effect on the odd sensation of discomfort. What can you do? Here you are, your attention is totally concentrated on yourself in a general way, with a very low grade of interior attention. And suddenly something begins to happen which demands all your attention. A vague ache, a yearning for which you as yet have no name. Think of yourself as the absolute, eternal, endless, frightened. And yet, whom can you ask? To whom can you turn? You know that the only answers you will ever find can only come from inside yourself. Answers you have obtained as a result of observation of an hallucination. Something which has no more reality than a hopelessly complicated mathematical formula, which has assumed some semblance of solid reality, but is purely mental. But if you know what the meaning is, can you really depend upon answers which were obtained from a dream?
Thank you.
You may have deduced the existence of others like yourself, and other creations like this one, to which you have become involuntarily crucified. But how can you be sure? Suppose another absolute should somehow come along. How could you determine its reality? After all, it might very well be just another hallucination on a larger scale. And even another absolute might not know any more than you have been able to discover. There is no guarantee that you will ever discover objective answers to the questions which have been plaguing you since the dawn of the first pass through creation. Of course, the absolute is the absolute of all the cosmoses we can ever know. but there may be others. Perhaps this is the meaning of the quasar, which may be light coming from another creation. On the other hand, it could also be a reflection of the creation folding back in on itself.
I was just thinking yesterday, you know, there are a lot of religious people, you know, who do this and that and whatnot and spend a lot of time practicing the practices given. You know, but eventually it's just another eye that they make and become strong for a period of years. You know, like these people can do a lot of things if you stimulate that eye, which sometimes seems like superhuman. You know, they can stay up all night, you know, do certain physical tasks that we cannot normally imagine a normal human to carry out. So um, I was just wondering, you know, like this when this question asked, right, that how, suppose there is another, how would you determine its reality?
Yeah.
It may very well be another hallucination on a larger scale. So same thing, you know, like what we are doing, right? How we know that this is we are doing something, you know, like real work
Yeah.
and not just.
And I do not think there is one answer, but I do know from experience that opportunities present themselves to test what it is we think we know, or we think we're doing, or we hope we're doing.
Yeah, I made a something for myself. I said, whatever goes as per my belief that this is how it's supposed to be, you know, it is not right.
Mhm.
Is if something that is new, like completely out of my scope of beliefs and imagination that I sense and perceive, then it what is called, then I can feel that okay, this is something real.
So you have a way of evaluating.
Yeah, if I think that this is how it's supposed to be and that's how it happens, then that is not, you know, it has to be.
It has to be not what you expect in order to be correct or
Yeah.
valid. Yeah.
What I go to is in the ABD, the 35th chamber, the first, no matter what I think is happening or what I think I see, I am only the clear light. And then it goes on,
Mm.
whatever I have experienced in any realm is only the projection of my own consciousness. The only genuine experience I have ever had is that of being the clear, luminous void of the void. No matter what it seems to be, that is the only reality. Only I, the clear and shining void, am real. So that's where I have had to put my post-it note on what is real.
Yeah, nice. Thank you.
Okay, so then I lost my place, Patricia. Where am I to read?
The third paragraph on page 40 that starts with the absolute has already been
Okay.
read. I think it would be appropriate to read it again. Yes, please.
So before I start, I want to share a joke that was told by Choyan Trungpa Rinpoche, and he was talking about one of the very famous Rinpoches, Marpa, who, taught endlessly about the luminosity of reality and the transparent nature of all. And his son died, and he fell into a deep state of mourning, and so his disciples were concerned. It went on, 1 week, and then 2 weeks, and then 2 months, and 3 months. And finally, the monks gathered and said to him, teacher, you have always said to us that, existence is transitory and luminous. Why are you grieving? This is just another illusion. And he looks at them and says, yeah, but this is a super illusion. So, sometimes there are super illusions. Anyway, the absolute can experience the entire range of creation as if it were a creature within the creation, but it cannot invoke itself into itself, because the creation exists forever in a single eternal moment. Objective time cannot really be measured by events, which is the measure of subjective time. Objective time can only be measured by the passage of the being through the creation, which is to say, time experienced as a being, passing through but independent of the creation. Wow. The illusion of time is produced by the being's passage through these frozen tableaus, which are connected only by association. But to the absolute, events are frozen forever in still and silent tableaus.
We cannot expect something to happen in the future in the sense of events, because there is no future. All events exist in the eternal moment. There is a future, an objective future, which really does carry the possibility of change. But it has no relation to events within the creation. The objective future can be seen in the passages of the Absolute through the creation, which is to say, through itself, in a manner of speaking. And I'll pass.
I'm just going to ask, does anybody understand that sentence? And please, could you explain it to me? Because I cannot grasp the objective future can be seen in the passages of the absolute through the creation, which is to say, through itself in a manner of speaking. What I get is an image of mirrors going through mirrors that are kind of like cloudy and maybe not even really there. I don't get it.
I don't either. As I was reading it, I was thinking, I don't get it. Okay.
Is it the second paragraph or the one on page 40, right? The last paragraph?
The last
Yeah.
paragraph, and then the very last sentence of that paragraph, which is on the top of page 41.
If you read the next paragraph, I may have one comment on that.
Although the absolute cannot directly alter the creation, it can, over a very long period of objective time, using these repeated passages through parts of the creation, produce change through the power of influence. In much the same way that a diamond cutter polishes a diamond by a slow grinding process interspersed with periodic critical examination of the stone. That paragraph?
Yeah, so I don't know who said that Earth, when it revolves around the sun, slowly it's like maturing just by revolving around the sun. So human beings who in the past and now it's more, what do you call, evolution. Like there are certain things even the kids nowadays understand that probably took us like 35 years to understand the concept. But like a 7-year-old kid nowadays will know what that concept is.
Yeah.
So that kind of understanding evolution, that just by going around the sun, just it's gathering that, I don't know what it's called, but it's helping. It's not the same. The earth is evolving.
That's a good image for me. Thank you. Jayesh, did you want to contribute here?
You mean for reading?
Oh no, I think I thought you were gonna say something about the paragraph. Sorry.
I wish I would have something to say.
The only image I can kind of come up with is that very old image of the snake eating its tail.
Yeah.
Or, like a wormhole that, has your head on this end and your head on that end, and, it is the universe, and yet, you move through. I mean, that's as close as that image of the, creation sort of endlessly circling and consuming itself is the only thing I can get close to.
Well, that's good. And I think Jayesh, you're right. You should probably read that next paragraph because that's a good one for us to leave on. Go for it. I don't want to hang out in this space.
That's objective future you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Our own assumption.
Our own assumption of a similar work on a smaller scale helps the absolute, provided we know what we are doing and exactly how we are to work for the best objective effect. Each invocation of the absolute produces a slight evolutionary effect. Eventually, however, the evolutionary process is complete. Sooner or later, we each end up absorbed into the absolute, where we wait for the other invocants to eventually show up as we did.
Oh, Bartman, you're just in time to read the last paragraph of the gathering today.
Oh no, where are we?
Page 41. Believe me, we don't know where we are, and we've gone a lot.
In some wormhole somewhere.
been somewhere, yes. We don't know where. Page
41.
and the paragraph that begins with what happens.
Okay. What happens when the endless creator has absorbed all its interior invocants? No one knows, but it provides some relief while it lasts. There, there have been other creations which eventually were absorbed back into the endless creator. And then it started all over again with the same events, the same cast of characters. Nothing has ever changed about the creation itself, nor the outcome. But the subjective experience of passage has produced a kind of evolution of the being of the absolute.
Thank you. I'd like to leave it there because
Yeah.
it's sort of a positive conclusion about all what's been being said before. Is that okay? We leave it here for now?
Yes.
I look forward to this
I-
time with everybody, and I'm so glad that we have this material to chew on together.
Yeah, and just to add to that, how we discuss about the octave and the Earth's rotation. Um, we learn in spiral, right? Like
Yes,
we learn something and then it comes back, and then we learn one step higher, and then goes back, and then one step little bit. So the words that are used in this book, it sound similar to that. That's like a spiral.
mhm,
And I think the octave is part of that spiral.
yes.
Yeah, and I was having the image of a play that, the curtain goes up, the actors act, they bring it alive, and then the curtain goes down, and then the next night the curtain goes back up, and yet there are some times when that play comes alive in a certain way for that performance. So that was kind of the way I could see that idea of creation. There's one creation, one performance, and then it closes down, and then it opens up with the same script, the same characters, even though there may be different humans occupying that character. It's still the same character, if that makes sense. Anyway,
Mhm.
thank you all. It was a big mind stretch today.
I like the idea about breathing part, right? Out breath and in breath.
Me
So
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
so that kind of, but to put in a creation and absolute perspective and put it in a book is kind of there is no word for it. But
Yeah.
at least we get the idea about, okay, there is a breath out and then coming in. So I don't need to worry about going back to my home.
Yeah. And that's one of the mantras, isn't it, JS? I breathe in, I breathe out.
Yeah, there is. Yep.
Yeah, that really it covers a lot of territory.
And
Well-
next time, Tamara, bring along Christopher Walken.
That was a pretty good. You invoked him. Nicely done,
you.
Bartleman.
We're going to the 4 lines and close today's session, and I'm staying behind because Bartleman just sent me a chat. But I look forward to proceeding again, and maybe you guys want to read this section all over again during the next 2 weeks. See where we go with it.
Yeah. I need to remove a lot of buffers.
Yes, removing buffers is a good start.
And I'll be there for that.
For all of
Nice.
Uh-huh.
All phenomena
All phenomena,
All
All
phenomena
phenomena
is
illusion,
illusion, neither
neither
attractive
attractive
nor
nor
repelled,
repelled,
not
making
making
not
any
any
sudden
sudden
moves.
move.
My
My
habits will
habits
carry me
will
through.
My habits
carry
carry
me
carry
through.
me through.
so
Thanks,
long.
everyone.
see you
Bye-bye.
again.
See you at the art auction.
Thank
Yes.
you.
There.
Yeah.
Bye all.
Bye.
Thank you.